You're right. You could make an argument for free speech in that regard. You absolutely could, because that's a song. Trump is the president. He's not rapping.
Powerfully strident in her denunciations of January 6th and everything that gave rise to it. This is her case after tomorrow.
Oh, so cooked. So fucking cooked.
Joining me now is the former president's newest attorney to his team, John Lauro. John, thanks so much for being here tonight. You've read through this indictment. What is your defense going to look like?
Well, it's basically a regurgitation of the J6 committee report, but our focus is on the fact that this is an attack on free speech and political advocacy. And there's nothing that's more protected under the First Amendment than political speech. So at the end, our defense is going to be focusing on the fact that what we have now is an administration that has criminalized the free speech and advocacy of a prior administration during the time that there is a political election going on. That's unprecedented. We've never seen that in the United States, in the history of the United States. So literally what we have is an attack, and really an effort to not only criminalize but also censor free speech. Donald Trump had every right to advocate for his position. While he was president, he saw irregularities, he saw deficiencies in the election process. He raised those. He was being told under oath by...
Like, you can't defend conspiring to break the law and conspiring to do a crime with the genuine intent to follow through on said crime on free speech grounds. This is not something that you can do unless you are truly able to craft a defense around some kind of like artistic interpretation or something like that. Unless you're literally like, no, Your Honor, this was a Hollywood script that we were following on. You misunderstood. You can't just be like, we should go rob a bank. Here are the maps. Here are the details. I will facilitate everything. And if the cops come, then we'll go and shoot back at them and blah, blah, blah. And then when you get caught, you go, oh, I was just exercising my free speech. Like, you can't do that.
People around the country that there were problems with the election. He also saw in real time that the rules were changing without the state legislatures weighing in. And ultimately, he had every right.
By the way, it's just rap lyrics. I didn't actually kill people. You're right. You could make an argument for free speech in that regard. You absolutely could, because that's a song. Trump is the president. He's not rapping about fraudulent electors that he wants to set up, or utilizing the military in the inevitable reaction that comes from him trying to successfully stop normal Congress proceedings from continuing by inciting a riot.
Right, in fact, a responsibility as a United States president to raise those issues. And now his advocacy is being criminalized.
Well, those are secretaries of state who were making those changes in those states because of the pandemic that was happening. You talk about free speech. Jack Smith noted Trump's right to free speech and to contest the election results. But what he says in this indictment is that when that did not work, the defendant, your client, pursued unlawful means of discounting legitimate votes and subverting the election results.
He didn't say, wake up in the morning, I got January 6th on my mind. Top of the hour comes and goes, and I ain't subscribed. Gonna commit a felony to make sure I get that Twitch Prime. Wake up in the morning, top of the hour ad break on my mind. Here's a 3-minute ad break now. Bars. That's right. You can also get gifted a sub if you're lucky. Here's a 3-minute ad break now. Moth666, thank you for the 5 gifted subs. And also, Plato1507, thank you for the 25 community gifted subs, allowing 30 people to no longer see the ads at the top of the hour.
results, and that is why he is being charged here, not because of anything related to free speech.
Yeah, but that's factually inaccurate, because the ultimate request that Mr. Trump made to Vice President Pence was pause the vote counting, allow the states to weigh in ultimately and audit or recertify. And under Article 2, Section 1, Clause 2, the actual responsibility for qualifying electors is in the state legislatures. Mr. Trump had the advice of counsel, Mr. Eastman, who was one of the most respected constitutional scholars in the United States, giving him advice and guidance. That's pure politics. You may disagree with it, and people have spirited arguments about the law all the time, and that's why lawyers are in business. But we've never had a situation where a spirited debate about the Constitution has become a criminal case. What's going to happen when there's a Republican administration? Is there going to be an effort to criminalize speech by Democrats? Is there going to be an effort to characterize something that a Democrat politician says that's not?
If a Democratic politician did exactly what Donald Trump did, they would be killed. Okay? First of all, Democrats are quite literally spineless cowards, so good luck with that. But if a Democrat actually followed through, like if Joe Biden was like, yeah, Jack, I know I lost the election, but fuck it. Why? Let's do something about it, Jack. Went to Kamala Harris and was like, come on. We need to put this on pause, Jack. Republicans would kill him. They would be like, all right, well, this is treason. We are going to shoot him. And then Democrats, in the interest of bipartisanship, would be like, okay, you can shoot him. But just like, I don't know, shoot him in the lower half of his body. Don't shoot him in the face. You know what I mean? Like, it's nuts. This comparison is nuts.
That doesn't meet some kind of truth standard at the Department of Justice, that's going to be the subject of a criminal indictment. We've now entered a constitutional abyss as a result of this indictment.
No, the real constitutional abyss has been ongoing, but specifically will happen if Donald Trump ends up winning the presidency while he's in jail.
But John, I should note that you're saying that he was just asking him to send them back. No, I was just talking to the chief of staff who was with Pence that day. He said he was being asked to do something illegal that Pence did not have the right to do, to reject them. And you mentioned the attorneys there that you say, John Eastman, he's a co-conspirator in this indictment. I should note, in the indictment lists all of the people who told Trump that his claims about election fraud weren't true, including the vice president, senior Justice Department leaders, the Director of National Intelligence, CISA, which of course is in charge of making sure elections in the U.S. are secure, senior White House attorneys, campaign staffers, state legislators that you just...
Oh my God. Trump deserves everything he's getting, dude. B-Gonks, thank you for the 5-tier 1 gift the subs. You put Sidney Powell in a room with you, you deserve it. Also, what the fuck is Cheese Bro? Kenneth Cheese Bro? What are these lawyers? Where do you find them? I'm sorry, dog. You hire a guy by the name of Kenneth Cheese Bro for anything. Like, you hire him to fucking fry some French fries for you, you deserve to be food poisoned, okay? My man's name is Kenneth Cheesebro, dude.
Mentioned there in the courts.
Right. What was not true? That there were states where ballots were sent out without people asking for them, where there were changes in verification, where there were instances where ballots were not being supervised at drop-off places. The president was told, given advice, that under these circumstances, the state legislatures have the ultimate ability to qualify electors. He followed that advice. Now, you may disagree as to whether or not those things actually occurred or not. That's why we have political debate. We don't have criminal trials over that. We have the discussion like we're just having.
But it matters if those things actually occurred or not, John.
Not under the First Amendment.
But it matters if those things actually occurred, because
Not at all, because under the First
it does matter if
Amendment,
there was actually fraud.
no, the First Amendment allows.
But John, let me stop you there,
Yeah.
because if he's saying that there was fraud, the First Amendment doesn't allow the President of the United States to go and claim there was fraud when he was told there was not fraud, and then try to subvert the election by overturning legitimate electors. I mean, it says it right here in the actual indictment.
Absolutely.
The only smoking gun in this, and I believe in my heart of heart it exists, is just Trump dead to rights being like, I knew it was not, I knew it was fraudulent. There was no fraud. I lied. What can they do about it? I lied. What are they going to do? Throw me in jail? I wanted to do a riot. It would be so sick. I mean, I think they already have dead to rights a lot of information to get him clapped up. But it would be so awesome because I know, given what I know about Donald Trump, and I am the number one Trump historian in the country, number one stand for Donald Trump in the country, in the nation. I know in my heart of hearts it's out there. He has said it. And it was probably recorded.
The First Amendment protects all speech. If we're going to have a situation where the Department of Justice is going to fact check politicians and indict politicians for political speech and whether or not they're factually accurate, then this country will shut down politically, because it's a never-ending cycle of tit for tat. And that's the risk of injecting politics into the criminal justice system. So right now, people disagree with President Trump. What's going to happen 4 years from now if somebody disagrees with President Biden in terms of what he said during the election?
Great. First of all, that'd be fire. Lock him up. You know what I mean? But secondly, I love that this guy is just straight up being like, no, you can lie to try to deliberately incite a riot and also change the outcome of an election. Like, you should be able to do that. Like, why is that illegal? Like, that's the argument here, which is crazy. I need you to understand, he's doing lawyer speak, but like, ultimately what his argument is like, well, it shouldn't be illegal. Like, you should be able to absolutely just, you know, willingly and knowingly lie about the outcome of an election when everyone around you has told you that you're incorrect. People in your cabinet, people around you have told you that you're incorrect, and you're desperately seeking out lawyers that will tell you that you're actually right, like some sycophants. And then you move on and you try to stop normal processes from occurring with this like half-assed, like cooked up plan, with knowing full well that it will cause riots all around the nation, with the idea that you're going to utilize the military to squash said riots. And also conspire to set up false electors, too.
That's why we don't criminalize political speech. Political speech under the First Amendment has an almost absolute protection. Nobody gets to judge whether it's true or not except the American people.
Except a president has lied under oath, like perjured himself under oath. Bill Clinton. He did. Nixon as well, but Bill Clinton too. Like, you couldn't, I don't know, someone was screaming in the background. You can't just like get away with it. You can't be like, oh, it's First Amendment.
And we do that in an election. We do that in an election. We do that in the case of a president by impeachment, but we don't indict people
John,
for speech.
I got to stop you there. But Trump is not being indicted for lying here. He is being indicted for using unlawful means of discounting legitimate votes and trying to subvert the election results.
Well, what's the unlawful means? There was an effort to get alternate electors.
That he was trying to overturn
which is a protocol
fake electors who were not legitimate.
that was used in 1960 by John Kennedy. And it was a protocol that was constitutionally accepted. So there's nothing wrong about that. In fact, in the indictment itself, it doesn't allege that there was anything wrong. And the final ask that Mr. Trump made to Vice President Pence was simply pause the voting. There's nothing inherently unconstitutional or illegal about that. In fact, he had an opinion.
That's so awesome. No, you can just simply ask, dude. Like, okay, let me explain something to you. For example, let's say you tell Mike Pence that you are going to acquire a gun and simply shoot him in the fucking head. Okay? And then, Mike Pence immediately goes to the authorities and says, this person made a death threat towards me. Okay? You can't turn around and go, well, I simply said I'm going to get a weapon and shoot him in the head, but that's allowed. Like, you can say it. It's like something that I could just say. I didn't like actually mean it, even though I did mean it, and I planned for what to do after I shot you in the head, and also conspired to shoot you in the head, conspired to get a gun, which is technically legal. It's under my Second Amendment rights. Like, you can't do that. The idea that this guy says that the request is legal is silly. John Eastman, who made the final ask, literally proposed it to Pence as a violation of the law. His words. At 11:44 p.m., co-conspirator 2 emailed the vice president's counsel advocating that the vice president violate the law and seek further delay of the certification. Co-conspirator 2 wrote, I implore you to consider one more relatively minor violation of the ECA and adjourn for 10 days to allow the legislatures to finish their investigations, as well as to allow a full forensic audit of the massive amount of illegal activity that has occurred here. Just a minor violation. Trump's legal team loves to say that he's within his rights to contest election results, but Al Gore did that with the legal system without inciting his voters to the Capitol. He fought in the courts and lost frustratingly. If Trump left it at that, it would have been at least precedented and more palatable, understandable, but obviously he lost all the court cases of the problem. He escalated to an extrajudicial solution. Yes. And also, with respect to Al Gore, he didn't just lose in the courts. The Republicans even then used extrajudicial reasons or extrajudicial solutions, which were not criminally prosecuted, that caused a recount from stopping. So Republicans back then successfully used an extrajudicial solution to physically stop a recount from occurring in the state of Florida. It was called the Brooks Brothers riot. So, of course, they probably think they could have gotten away with it again, I assume.
From a very well-known constitutional scholar that said that's fine, that's legal. Mr. Trump is not a lawyer. He's a businessman.
His own attorney general and official said that was not fine, that was certainly illegal that he was asking. And they weren't just asking for a pause. He was asking to overturn the legitimate results. But John, let me ask you, because your running point on this, is Trump going to show up in person?
He was asked.
Let me ask you this: is Trump going to show up in person for his arraignment on Thursday?
That's up to the court. The court makes those decisions. So we're prepared to follow whatever the court rules are.
John,
the judge issued a summons, and he will appear either virtually or in person.
Okay, so it's not clear if it's virtually or in person. But one thing to get back to there, he's not just asking for a pause. Your client.
No. You have to look at his last.
John, your
you have
client
to look
is on
at what he
tape.
said. You have to look at what he said at the ellipse. Have you read the ellipse
John,
speech?
you got to let me finish my point here. Your client, John, is on tape with the former the Secretary of State of the state of Georgia. John, you got to let me finish my point here. I'm letting you finish your point.
Absolutely.
But your client is on tape with the former with the Secretary of State from the state of Georgia asking him to find him one more vote than he would need to win the state. That's not asking for a pause. He's asking for votes that he did not get in that election.
He was asking for the Secretary of State to identify votes that were not counted properly and factor.
That's the hardest one to defend. I gotta hand it to him, bro. Respect. You gotta be a real fucking shark to just openly state things like that on national television. Like, he's out of his freaking mind, dude. I mean, come on, brother. He didn't even ballpark it. That's the worst part. In my opinion, if he ballparked it, even then it's like indefensible. But at least there's a tiny sliver of like bad faith, cynical defenses you can apply. He just straight up said the exact number +1. Like, that's insane. That makes it worse, in my opinion. Like, he didn't just ballpark and be like, come on, 15,000, 12,000. He's like 11,843 or whatever. Oh, 11,786 votes.
That in. And by the way, that discussion took place with dozens of people on a phone call with lawyers involved, and no one was suggesting doing anything illegal.
Yeah, he was going to use the military. I talked about this earlier. He just straight up said, well, Deputy White House Counsel, that's why there is an Insurrection Act. The Deputy White House Counsel reiterated the co-conspirator for that there had not been outcome determinative fraud in the election, that if the defendant remained in office nonetheless, there would be riots in every major city in the United States. To which co-conspirator 4 responded, well, Deputy White House Counsel, that's why there's an Insurrection Act. Trump is in the age range of watching The Price is Right like it's his religion. He's just doing what he's been trained for. That's a good take, actually. That's probably why. That's probably why he hit the exact number necessary. God, it's so good. It's so good. American politics is so good all the time, always. Just fucking incredible, dude.
And no one during that call said, Mr. President, that's beyond the bounds. This is politics. This indictment is about pure politics. We engage in vigorous debate in this country about politics. What we don't do is criminalize political speech. This indictment is a game changer. It's the first time that we've taken political speech and said, we're going to criminalize it by the party that's in control against the party that's contesting the next election, where the two individuals involved are going to be running for office. That is an incredible set of circumstances.
John, if you believe that you have a good defense here for your client, do you believe...
Yo, he's dripped up, dude. Wait,
Office.
hold up.
That is an incredible...
John...
God damn. Look at my lawyer. Oh, you guys can't see because I'm covering it. Dude. My lawyer is jiggling, dude. Look at my lawyer, brother. He's too hot. He's too dripped. He's too fucking dripped out the wazoo to be an adequate lawyer. I'm saying it. I'm calling it. Can't have a guy like this. He should be a YouTube lawyer. You know what I mean? That's what he should be doing. You should be doing YouTube law like Legal. Except Legal is way hotter than he is.
If you believe that you have a good defense here for your client, do you believe that this trial should happen before the 2024 election?
It should not interfere with the election, but really what the indictment has done is identify 7 states
But should it happen before the election?
where there were irregularities. I need to look at what so-called evidence is going to be presented. I could see this trial lasting 9 months or a year, but it's going to take, Mr. Trump is entitled to a defense. The government has had 3 years to investigate this, and now they want to rush this to trial in the middle of a political season. What does that tell you? We deserve as much time as any American citizen to defend on these issues as anyone else. And for the government to have 3 years to do it and then expect us to do it in 3 weeks or 4 weeks is just ridiculous. Every single person in the United States is entitled to due process, including the former president.
Okay, John. Well, just notable given your client was saying, that they took too long to make these charges. But John Lauro, thank you for joining us. I know that we will see you
I hope to see
many
you
times
again.
going forward as you are representing the former president. In this case, Anderson, back to you.
Caitlin, thanks. Back with Van Jones, Jessica Roth, Ellie.
Oh, my Lord, dude. Former President Donald Trump's attorney, John Lauro.
Welcome back to CBS Mornings.
Now talking to CBS Mornings. But before we get into that, hold up. Here's Charlie Kirk's take on it. Talking to Representative Dan Bishop of the House Judiciary
The Jack Smith
Committee.
indictment of Trump is the capstone of what we're seeing in the Democratic Party that is authoritarian to its core at the moment.
And these people are Maoists. Congressman Bishop, great work. We have your back. Thank you so much.
The Democratic Party is Maoist, dude. How will the MAGA communists cope with this? I thought the real Maoist movement was MAGA. The real peasants' rebellion would occur under the MAGA umbrella. The only Maoist Democrat is Van Jones, okay, who was a Maoist third worldist and is not any longer.
Thank you, Charlie.
ReliefFactor.com, 100% drug-free Relief Factor.
I love the ad read right into it.
Clear on that throughout. I was clear with
What the hell? I can't even hear shit.
President Trump throughout all the way up to the morning of January 6th. But let's be clear on this point. It wasn't just that they asked for a pause. The president specifically asked me, and his gaggle of crackpot lawyers asked me to literally reject votes, which would have resulted in the issue being turned over to the House of Representatives, and literally chaos would have ensued. So,
oh no, dude, yo, fake friends, dude, fake fucking friends, dude. Yo, gonna really change the game. Everybody's out here snitching. Oh my God. Oh my God. That's real messed up, dude. This is, oh God. Snakes all around. I saw a tweet that was like, yo, Mike Pence might be a magician the way my dogs turned into snakes. Fuck. That's right, dude. That's fucked up, dude. Yo. That's fucked up. No wonder they were trying to kill this man. You think you know someone, am I right? Yeah, what the fuck? Pull a full Ludwig? Yeah. Air Force Two, more like Air Force Two-Face? True, dude. How dare you?
Martha, I just people can read the indictment, and frankly, I've said before, I had hoped it had not come to this point. You know, I don't know if the government can meet the standard, the burden of proof beyond reasonable doubt for criminal charges, but the American people deserve to know.
I love that he's like, they won't meet the standard, but here I am telling you why it is criminal technically. That's awesome.
That President Trump and his advisors didn't just ask me to pause. They asked me to reject votes, return votes, essentially to overturn the election and to keep faith with the oath that I made to the American people and to Almighty God. I rejected that out of hand, and I did my duty that day.
Almighty God. It's crazy. And then he told absolutely nobody about any of this until now. No, I think he did. He wrote it in his book, remember? Pretty sure he did. Everyone's been celebrating him as a hero on the liberal side a little bit. Like, they've been glazing him up. The tabs look so bad on Twitter right now. Looks like you're a porn addict. I mean, you know. There is some porn in my tabs. Have you seen this, dude? Look at my tabs. This is basically porn for me. Technically, you're not wrong. The sheriff of Fulton County, Georgia, says if Donald Trump were to be indicted in connection with efforts to overturn the 2020 election in the state, he would not receive special treatment and would be booked and photographed like any other defendant. Oh my God, if they perp walk him and photograph him, I'm going to lose my mind. I'm going to lose it. I'm going to fucking lose it. It's going to be so good. Oh, dude. Oh, that's so sick. For the record, a reporter films active shooter scare at the U.S. Senate appears to be a false alarm. Remember that? Before some hogwatch, here's some libwatch.
And further overt acts in furtherance of that agreement.
When you report on the indictment, but she keeps sucking. That's so dumb. Are you dressing fancy for the indictment tomorrow? I mean, maybe. We got leftovers in the morning. So I'm going to ask Ethan to potentially put a suit and tie on too and wear one on my stream. Nothing can come of this. Indictments in the form of real punishments. Do you think anything will come of this one? I mean, I think he's got a bunch of... his situation keeps getting worse and worse. Like the first one, the Manhattan District Attorney one was like... That was a bit of a stretch, right? Like he was still in a very Trumpian fashion. It took something that originally would be considered maybe not illegal, but like not cool to do that you would pay a fine for. And did it in a way so openly and so flagrantly that you could technically consider it criminal. Then the second indictment from the Jack Smith prosecution came down, and it was like, oh, it's open and shut. But you could say technically that mishandling classified documents isn't the worst crime of all time, even though it is an open and shut indictment that was airtight. You know what I mean? And then this last one came down where you got false electors and you have conspiracy to defraud conspiracy to defraud the American people, trying to incite a riot, trying to incite an insurrection, and like actively working and even calling up, the Rathlisberger, not Pittsburgh's very own local celebrity, and then stating that you want the exact number of electors. I mean, it's just ridiculous. You should have time arraignment isn't until 4 p.m. EST tomorrow. Anyway, Steelers haven't had a losing season in 2 decades. I think that maybe one thing to consider is that straight up intimidated federal, state prosecutors, judges, their families. I'd like to think that they won't let that slide regardless of their parties. I mean, I think that more importantly than anything else, like it's not a duty to protect one another. It's not a duty to protect like the justice system or elections or anything like that. I think it's more so that Trump is seen as a liability by the Republican Party for stuff like this. Because if you just like kept it to... If he just kept it to, doing incredible things for the Republican donor class, which he did, and just kept it at that, he would not be considered as big as a liability, and the Republican Party's infrastructure would be willing to defend him as they did throughout his tenure. You know what I mean?
conspiracy to overturn the 2020 election results, which ended with the January 6th assault on the Capitol. So far, he is the only defendant in this particular case. With us now, John Laurel.
Yinzers do not make Eagles fans look normal. That is some excellent Pennsylvania cope. I'm sorry. It's just not true. You want it to be true. No matter how hard you wish it to be true, it is not. As far as I understand, no Pittsburgh Steeler fan has ever eaten horse manure. Obviously, no Pennsylvania sports fan is normal. It's usually just like, it's usually just a pit of despair. It's a race to the bottom. But I would say Pittsburgh fans are a little more normal, even though they're both abnormal.